Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Black Widow, Nebula and Wanda? Part 1. Huge shout out to Power of Magic for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Naruto and Will were both working in the restaurant they owned, which was called the Rising Tide. It was a quite popular place in New York, based near Harlem. They served many different kinds of dishes, with them being open every day, except on holidays, from 9 AM till 10 PM. It also helped that they used disguised shadow clones to help with the work, which is why they never hired anyone, as they didn't want anyone to freak out and let the government know about them. They'd seen on the news what the government thought about those with powers that they wanted to control after seeing the military fighting against the Hulk. Naruto could tell that the Hulk only ever attacked if provoked, and that he did what he could to try and keep to himself. They also found that Tony Stark aka Iron Man was quite egotistical, as they had seen how he announced himself as a hero on the news to the whole world, which they found to be pretty stupid, as now all crooks and criminals could attack him and those close to him. As Naruto was wiping down some tables and Will was behind the counter, they heard the bell ring as the door opened, making them look and see who'd entered. They both saw a woman that had flaming red hair while wearing casual clothes which consisted of long blue pants with brown boots, a white t-shirt and a black jacket. She walked over to one of the tables and sat down before she looked over the menu at the table. Naruto could immediately tell that there was more to this woman than meets the eye. So it looks like one of the agencies noticed us suddenly appearing in the system and sent one of their spies to gather info about us, Naruto thought. After they'd appeared in this world about 3 years ago when they were 17, Naruto had asked Will to set them up with identities and everything by getting into the system so that they could live normal lives, or as normal as can be for them. After they'd gotten some money, thanks to Will talking to some bank's tech and convincing it to give them money from some obvious criminal named Fisk at least. According to the bank machine, they'd bought a rundown building which they'd turned into their restaurant with a nice apartment above it. They'd also stopped several crimes, with Will turning any nearby cameras off in the area so that no one noticed it was them, and with them being ninjas, no one was able to take any pictures of them as they were too fast and they stuck to the shadows. Naruto walked up to the lady and took his notepad out before saying, "Hello there, miss. What can I get for you today?" She looked the menu over one last time before saying, "I'll have a latte coffee and a cheeseburger with fries please." Naruto gave a nod as he jotted it down on his notepad, saying coming right up before he turned around and headed off to the kitchen as he thought, looks like she's got a gun hidden in her left boot and another on her lower back. "What's the hot reteed want?" Will asked him. "She says a cheeseburger with fries and a latte. Also you find her hot?" Naruto asked her with a raised eyebrow. "Are you kidding? Looking at her makes me consider being bi," Will said with a smile. "Oh, stop and go get the food," Naruto said with a shake of his head. "No problem, now go ask Miss Bi what she really wants," Will said as she went to go cook. "That obvious to you too, huh?" Naruto asked with a smile at the fact that Will had the woman pegged too. Will scoffed, "Please, she's way too obvious, but that may be because of our experience," she said. "True," Naruto said, nodding as he went over to the red-headed woman. She looked at him as Naruto said, "Your burger and fries are being cooked now and your coffee will be bought out later." She gave a nod as Naruto sat down and asked her, "So what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I work in negotiation with foreign diplomats," she told him. She then held out her hand saying, "I'm Katie by the way." Naruto took her hand and gave it a shake as he said, "The name's Naruto. And Katie, you look more like a Natasha to me," he added with a smirk. She had a look of brief shock appear on her face before she quickly made it disappear as she said, "I don't know what you're talking about. My name's Katie Blecker and I would like to maybe get to know you better," as she gave him a charming smile. On the outside she was playing it cool, but inside she was worried as she thought, how'd he know what my real name was? Does he have some kind of mental abilities and that's how he found out my name? Naruto just gave her a look of unamusement before saying, "Nice try lady, but it's not going to work. So you can go back to your boss and let him know that the hot reteed was a nice try, but I'm not as easy as they think." Will then came out with a cheeseburger and fries, while her coffee was also bought over in a takeaway cup. "Your order, miss," Will told her as she placed it on the table between Naruto and the reteed. Naruto then stood up as he and Will went to the kitchen to clean the cooking utensils. As she watched them walk off, Katie pulled her phone out before dialing a number on it. As it rang, she helped herself to some fries which she found quite tasty. After a few more rings and a few fries along with some of her burger, she heard the line being picked up before a male voice gruffly said, "Yes, what is it?" "It's me, sir," was the reply from the reteed as she drank some of her coffee. "We have a bit of a problem." "What kind of a problem, Agent Romanoff?" She heard from her boss, and even though she couldn't see it, she was sure he was giving off a glare with his one good eye. She bit into her burger and ate some of it before replying with I'm not sure how, but the one called Naruto was able to figure out my real name. So either one of them has mental powers of some kind or is a tech whiz expert capable of hacking into anything electrical. That is troubling indeed was the reply from her boss before he continued how'd you escape from them Natasha? Well you see, that's the thing Nick the now named Natasha said before eating some more fries then continued. They just called me out and Naruto told me to tell you and I could let him know that the hot retweet was a nice try but I'm not as easy as they think end quote. She could then hear some grumbling from the other end of the phone before Nick said okay, looks like we'll have to try a different approach with these two. Report back to base and I want a full report on my desk ASAP. Roger that boss, Nad out she said before hanging up. She wasn't used to people being so friendly when they're being watched and when they call her out spying on them and she knew that Nick was thinking the same thing. She then continued eating before she finished her food and then picked up her half-finished drink and left with it, drinking it as she went. With Naruto and Will in the kitchen, they were having their own conversation about their customer that just left. Who do you think she worked for Naruto? Will asked him. He shook his head as he answered I've no idea but I think we'll have to be careful now. Especially if an agency of some kind is taking an interest in us. Will nodded her head in agreement before they went back to cleaning up the restaurant since it was a slow day and they didn't have many customers in the restaurant today. Naruto also heard his tenant adding, I agree that you should be wary around that retweet brat. Cause I've got the feeling that she's going to be coming around here a fair lot trying to find out info she can about you and your retweet mate. Naruto just rolled his eyes at that as he got back to work. Sometime later, after closing. Naruto and Will had just had something to eat and closed up the restaurant and had decided to go for a walk. They passed a dojo called the Chikara Dojo run by their new friend Colleen Wing. They'd met her sometime after the restaurant was built and after talking with her a few times the three of them had become great friends. It was sometime after they became friends that Naruto could tell that she was hiding something from them. After they talked to her and encouraged her to not hide anything from her friends, they were eventually able to coax it out of her. They found out that she works for a secret organization called the Hand and that they have a grip on the criminal underworld. They also found out the group had an influence on everything from wars to crime and even influence on powerful people. Naruto and Will had gone out at times to try and find this group along with stopping them. They weren't able to find any of the group's leaders and any of those that worked in the group they could find and fight either killed themselves with cyanide in a false tooth or were killed by a sniper if the false tooth was ever removed. As Naruto and Will were walking along, they noticed a woman in front walking towards them. Naruto was also able to notice that the woman was walking along like she was drunk or something. Excuse me, are you feeling alright? Naruto asked her in concern. Will also noticed the woman and how she was walking, or to be more precise, it looked like she was stumbling and wobbling all over the place. She was just a few feet from them when she fell forward in a faint. Naruto quickly rushed forward and grabbed her before she hit the pavement. Will rushed over and asked is she okay? Naruto shook his head as he replied I don't know as he turned her over on the ground to see if he could find anything wrong with her. As he did, the two of them saw that she had black hair and they noticed that she had blood on her shirt. Will put her hand to her mouth and shook as she slightly stuttered out is that he. Her blood. Naruto was checking for any injuries and finding none shook his head saying she's not wounded anywhere. She must have gotten into a drunken fight or something with someone else and that person's blood ended up on her shirt. He then scooped her up as he added come on let's get her to the nearest hospital so that they can see what's up with her. Will nodded in agreement as they headed back to the restaurant so they could drive her to a hospital. Sometime later, at the hospital. After they'd got back to the restaurant, they'd put her in Naruto's orange Ford Transit van before heading off to the nearest hospital that Naruto's sat-nav could find. While Naruto was driving, Will was in the back doing what she could to rouse the woman and find out what happened. The woman would only mumble at times and toss her head this way and that. Will was able to hear sorry in the woman's mumblings, making her think she'd broken up with someone or something. It took them about half an hour to reach a hospital. Naruto had carried her in, with Will running on ahead to let the staff know they had a woman unconscious that needed help. After placing her on a gurney, they then had to fill in some paperwork that the receptionist had passed to them. After filling it all out, they decided to wait and see if they could get anything out of the strange woman. It was about 2 hours later when they saw a blonde-haired woman coming up to the receptionist desk. Hi, I'm Trish, the blonde woman said, with worry clearly in her voice. I'm here because a black-haired woman came in, passed out with blood on her shirt. The receptionist asked her are you related to the woman? Yes, I'm her stepsister she replied as she nodded her head. And the doctor said that I was to be called in case anything happened to her. The receptionist nodded as she said very well ma'am. Please take a seat and I'll let the doctor know you're here. Thanks was the reply as she went and sat down a few seats opposite Naruto and Will as she hung her head with a sigh. The woman that was brought in is your sister? Will curiously asked. She picked her head up and looked in their direction as she replied yeah along with being my best friend. Well I guess you'll want to know that we're the ones that brought her in, Naruto said. She looked relieved at that as she got up to sit directly opposite them as she said, thank you so much. I'm glad that it was someone like you and not some creeps that did it. They shrugged their shoulders as Naruto replied it was no problem. He then stuck his hand out as he said I'm Naruto by the way and this here's Will who gave her a slight wave. The blonde woman took his hand and shook it as she said I'm Trish while she was thinking he looks quite handsome and cute. No Trish don't think of that. And if my mother meets him I'm sure she'll try and set me up with him as she internally groaned as her mother was constantly trying to set her up with whatever man she could find. It was a few minutes later when the three of them noticed a doctor coming over who said Trish Walker. She groaned, expecting these two she'd just met to want an autograph or a photo or something. But to her surprise, they didn't react to her name which she put aside for later as she said yeah that's me. The doctor said I'm Dr. Yoshiko. Your sister's going to be fine. The blood on her shirt wasn't hers and she has no wounds of any kind. There was no sign of any drugs or alcohol in her system thankfully. Trish gave a sigh of relief as she then asked can we see her? The doctor gave a nod as he replied yes as she should be resting at the moment so you'll have to be quiet. If you'd please follow me he added before turning around and walking off. The other three followed after him as he led them to the room Trish's stepsister was recovering in. As they got closer, they could hear two people talking. This would you please lay down and get some rest? You should be recuperating, not trying to walk about and leave, one of the nurses' voices was heard saying. Look lady, I'm fine okay. Now I just want to leave and get back to my apartment another voice was heard saying, which Trish immediately recognized. But rolled her eyes as she said oh great a tomboy. Of all the things in the world, she had to be a tomboy. Trish laughed as surprisingly no one had ever called Jessica that before. They finally reached the room and the doctor opened the door with the four of them seeing a nurse trying to stop the black-haired woman from trying to get dressed and to get back into the hospital bed. As this was happening, Trish finally asked when the doctor said my full name, didn't you guys know that I'm famous? They both shook their heads as Will said nope. We have no idea that you were famous and we only make friends with people who are themselves and not what others try and make them out to be. Trish was happy about that as it meant that she could have proper friends that don't care that she's famous. The group of four entered, with the nurse turning to the doctor as she gave a sigh of relief as she said, oh doctor, thank God you're here. Miss Jones here is refusing to get back into bed and is insisting that she's fine enough to leave. Jessica gave the nurse a glare as she said look you stupid bitch, I feel fine. Now just let me out of here so that I can get to my apartment. The doctor stepped forward with a frown on his face, saying, I'll be the judge of whether or not you're fine Miss Jones. And please, no swearing in the hospital as there may be some children near this room and I don't want angry parents coming here looking for where that foul language is coming from. Trish walked over as she said please Jess just let them do their jobs and make sure that you're okay. She just sighed before she went and sat on the bed to let the nurse and doctor look her over. She also finally noticed Naruto and Will as she asked who's the retard and the whiskered blonde. Trish replied with the retard is Will and the whiskered blonde is Naruto. They're the ones that found you and brought you to the hospital. Jessica gave them a nod as she said thanks I guess. No problem Will said as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Now Miss Jones, can you tell us what's the last thing you remember? The doctor asked her, while making sure her eyes were working well before checking her heart rate and blood pressure. The look of concentration appeared on her face as she gave it some thought as she replied, I'm not entirely sure doc. I'm trying to remember the last thing I was doing, but it's coming up blank. The doctor hummed as he said, looks like whatever happened, your mind's blocked it off to protect you. It may come back or not at all. Naruto could tell that she was lying thanks to Sage Mode giving him his sensory abilities. He could tell that she'd been through hell and that she was still hurt inside from the experience. After giving her a look over, the doctor said well Miss Jones, it looks like you're in picture perfect health. As soon as you're signed out, you're able to head on back home. Great, let's go Trish Jessica said as she grabbed Trish's hand before heading to the door. She stopped next to Naruto and Will as she said thanks again for helping me out before the two of them went out the door to the reception desk with Trish giving them a quick wave goodbye. Will ran over to catch up wait. Here, if you need someone to talk to, you can come to our restaurant she said, handing Trish and Jessica a business card each that had the restaurant's number, address and hours on it. Trish gave her a smile saying thanks Will, we really appreciate it. Right Jess. She added as she looked at Jessica waiting for her response. Jessica gave a huff before saying yeah whatever before continuing to head for the reception desk. Trish gave Will an apologetic look and shrugged before following. Naruto soon caught up with Will and said, come on, let's head back and get some sleep. We're gonna need it if tomorrow's going to be a busy day. Will gave a nod of agreement as they left the hospital before climbing back into the van and heading back to the restaurant apartment complex. Once back, Naruto parked the van and they climbed the outdoor stairs to the apartment and unlocked the door. They soon undressed and went to bed with Will saying night Naruto as she put her head on his shoulder as she gave him a kiss on the cheek with Naruto kissing her forehead as he replied sweet dreams Will before they fell asleep. The next day, 6:30 a.m. After Naruto woke up, he saw that Will was still sleeping with a cute look on her face. He gave a small smile and got out of bed while being careful not to disturb her. He then headed for the kitchen and thought to make her some breakfast in bed. He decided on chocolate chip pancakes with a bowl of strawberries to go with it. He turned the oven top on and placed a pan with some light oil on the bottom, then got started with the pancakes and placed all the proper ingredients into a bowl before mixing them all together. Once the ingredients were all mixed and it was a smooth look, he poured 4 appropriate amounts onto the frying pan. After a few minutes on each side, the pancakes were ready. After scooping them out of the pan, he placed them on a plate each with the strawberries on top. He placed the plates on a tray with 2 glasses of orange juice before picking it up and carrying it to their room. He carefully opened the door, making sure that he didn't wake her up. He saw that she was still fast asleep, so he quietly tiptoed over to her side of the bed and placed the tray on the bedside table. He turned to her face and seeing she was still asleep, gave a grin as he leaned down and kissed her on the lips, which she returned in her sleep, giving a moan as she did. After a few moments of kissing, Naruto pulled back to see Will looking at him with half-lidded eyes. He gave her a smile as he said morning sweetie. She gave a small smile in return before saying mornin'. Need more kisses as she reached to put her arms around his neck and pull him back in. Naruto grabbed her arms before she could as he shook his head saying sorry babe, but we need to get up and get some work done. Will shook her head as she told him don't wanna stay in bed and have kisses all day as she gave him a cute pout. Naruto sighed dramatically before he said well I guess that you don't want these chocolate chip pancakes with strawberries I made for you. Guess I'll have to have them for myself if you're not going to get up as he stood up before grabbing the tray and looking like he was about to leave the room with it. Will sat herself up in the bed before saying gimme the pancakes mister as she reached her arms out for the tray. Naruto gave a chuckle as he sat as the lady wishes before setting it on her lap. He then took his plate of pancakes off the tray before sitting in the chair in the corner of the room. Will licked her lips before helping herself to her breakfast. She gave a moan of satisfaction as she said oh now that's yummy food. Naruto gave a shake of his head as he had some pancakes from his own plate. After she'd eaten she then went to have a shower and clean her teeth while Naruto took the tray with the dishes on to wash. He placed all the dirty dishes in the dishwasher and after placing a powder tablet in and setting on the right time, he set it going. After Will was finished in the bathroom and dressed for the day, Naruto went to clean his teeth and shower before getting dressed himself. They both then went down the stairs to the restaurant and got everything ready for when it was time to open. 10 a.m. Naruto and Will were relaxing for a bit at one of the tables as their last few customers had just left when they heard the ringing of the bell as the door opened. They looked over and saw it was a group of about 6, with them all looking to be thugs. One of them turned the sign around showing the shop was closed and locked the door, while 2 of them sat down at a table each like they owned the place, while the other 4 walked over to Naruto and Will. They both stood up as soon as they saw them approaching, as they could tell that they were going to be trouble. Can I help you gentlemen with anything? Naruto asked as politely as he could. One of them gave a nod of his head as he gave a creepy and greedy smile before he replied with yeah I think that you can. My name's Tom Skullet and I work for Mr. Cottonmouth. You see, there's word of gangsters roaming these streets here and they love attacking any kind of store that they come across. So as the good citizens we are, we'll be offering protection to you and your store just to be on the safe side. They both beeped an eyebrow as they could easily tell these guys were lying as they could see the greed and a sense of entitlement in their eyes. Will beeped an eyebrow as she asked and what's it going to cost us to have your protection? Skullet gave her a pervy look as he replied nothing much sweet cheeks. Only about half your money every month should just about do it. Naruto shook his head as he said thanks Mr. Skullet but I'm afraid we'll take our chances with the thugs. Now please leave so that we can serve any customers that might want to have something to eat here. The thugs just gave a shrug as though not bothered by his decision before Skullet said I'm sure that you'll change your mind once these gangsters attack your workplace as they turned around and headed back for the door with Naruto and Will following after them. As they passed one of the 2 that was sitting down, he slapped Will's ass before saying nice ass sweetheart. Why not leave the blonde idiot and spend some time with a real man? As he looked at her with a perverse look. Will just turned around and gave him a sweet-looking smile that Naruto knew was anything but before she said, "Oh, and would that man be you?" The guy stood up as he said that, "I am sweetie," before he reached his arm out towards her. Will was still giving him the sweet smile as she then grabbed his arm before breaking it. "Aya," the guy screamed in pain as he cradled his broken arm before Will then grabbed him and threw him out the restaurant through one of the windows. "Anyone else feeling brave or stupid?" Naruto asked the other guys. "Please say yes, that was barely a workout," Will said, still with a sweet smile, with a dangerous undertone to it. "Fuck this," one guy said as he unlocked the door and left like a bat out of hell. "Wait for me, bro." The others yelled as they followed after him, while the guy with the broken arm gingerly stood up and hobbled after them as his ankle was twisted from being thrown through the window. "Hunk ass," Will said, rolling her eyes. "You are incorrigible," Naruto said with a smile as he shook his head at her antics. Suddenly some people came in. "Which one of you did that to that gangbanger?" an old man asked them. Naruto pointed at Will, who smacked his shoulder for selling her out so quickly. "Would you ask, sir?" Naruto asked, hoping he wasn't a relative of one of those guys. The old man and his friends laughed. "About time someone gave those punks what they deserved," one of them said. "You just earned some customers for life, young lady," one of the old men said as he sat down. I'm gonna tell my church about this, they will definitely want to eat here too," another of the old men said. "Looks like we won't need that ad in the paper, thanks to you, sweetie," Naruto said with a smile. Will just rolled her eyes good-naturedly before they took everyone's orders. A few weeks later. "Those punks are suing us?" Naruto asked, surprised as Will read a letter that just arrived. Will nodded her head as she read out loud from the letter, "You are hereby ordered to appear before the court of New York City," Will said as she named the date and time, which was a week away, with the time being at 10:30 a.m. "Great, now we need a lawyer," Naruto said, groaning as he found this whole thing a sham. "We don't know any lawyers, but Trish or Jessica may know one," Will said as she pulled out a cell phone. Naruto nodded his head as he said, "Yeah, good idea. You call Trish and I'll call Jessica." Will nodded as she dialed Jessica's number. It took a few rings before she was able to get through. "Jessica, I swear if you are drunk again who are you calling a bitch?" Will yelled into the phone as Naruto took the phone from Will. "I'll handle this," Naruto said as he put the phone to his ear. "Jessica, we both know you are better than this, we care about you whether you like it or not, so either grow up and be an adult or I'm gonna come down there and make you go into rehab." Naruto yelled, clearly angry that Jessica was doing this to herself. Will was surprised as she didn't think Naruto could be that angry over something like this. Alright, Whiskers, calm down, geez. What do you need?" Jessica asked him. "We are being sued by some gang members," was the reply. "Ha. I read about that in the paper and let Red know I approve of her methods and that she has my respect," Jessica said good-heartedly. "Let me guess, you need a lawyer?" she then asked. "Yes, Jessica, you know anyone?" Naruto said, hoping that she did. "I know one, but she's a newbie. But trust me, she has talent. If it's as small as this, she will have the plaintiff wishing Red finished them off," Jessica told him. "You got a name?" Naruto asked. "Jennifer Walters, I'll send you the number right away." "You guys get that ice cream I like in the restaurant yet?" Jessica asked. "Of course, see you soon, Jessica," Naruto said with a smile before he hung up. "You keep being sweet like that and I may have to start making a list of girls to kill," Will said with a smile, showing she was only kidding. Yay, now let's go make a witness list for next week," Naruto said as he wanted to help this Jennifer with any information she needed. A week later. "You Jennifer Walters?" Naruto asked, seeing a plain-looking woman in a suit waiting at the courthouse. The woman looked at Naruto and froze before she dropped her briefcase. "Damn it," she whispered to herself as she went to pick it up, but Naruto handed it to her with a smile. "Yes, I'm Jennifer Walters," the woman said. "Don't worry, I have that kind of effect on all the girls," Naruto told her as he tried to make her less nervous. "Are you Naruto Uzumaki and Wilma Vandam?" Jennifer asked. "I prefer Will, thanks," Will said. "Sorry about that," Jennifer said as she blushed in embarrassment. "Don't worry, I'm sure you will do great. Our friend Jessica swore you were the best," Naruto said with a smile. Jennifer sighed. "Jessica Jones, only women I know that could get banned from a bar in New York," she said, sighing. "She did what now?" Naruto said with a frown, not liking the sound of that. "Never mind that, we have court to attend to, Mr. Uzumaki," Jennifer said with a look of steel as she led them into the courtroom. "Geez, she looks and sounds like a professional lawyer now," Naruto thought. "I like her," Will thought as she may be shy, but she had nerves of steel if needed. A few hours later at the Rising Tide. "I can't believe how much you got from counter-suing them," Will said, laughing as Naruto and Jennifer toasted to their success at the Rising Tide. Jennifer shrugged her shoulders as she said, "It was easy thanks to the witnesses you guys got. Please, after it got out in the neighborhood that those punks were suing, we had a line of people going round the block ready to defend us," Naruto said as he took a drink. Yeah, they love us since I put that guy through a window, Will said laughing. So, that guy wasn't lying, Jennifer said with a surprised look on her face. Hey, he had it coming, Will said, before she added, I had a right to unleash my righteous feminine fury on him, as she shook her fist. Jennifer shook her head as she took a sip from her glass. As they were having a good time, what they didn't know was that a small amount of robots were outside, waiting for the right moment to strike. The robots were all the same, as they were all round-shaped with arms, a small cannon and one eye in the middle as they hovered in the air. One of them spoke into a combinator they were all programmed with, the target is inside the establishment. How do you wish to proceed? With the camera zooming in on the restaurant. Bring me the woman known as Jennifer Walters alive. You can kill off anyone else you find, if they resist, was the reply from their master. Understood, commencing with capture of target as the robots flew towards the restaurant. They all flew through the windows, breaking the window panels as they went. What the? Jennifer said, finding this quite surprising. Naruto and Will weren't as shocked, as they each took a battle stance and waited to see what the robots wanted. The robot scanned Naruto and Will, before eventually scanning Jennifer as one of them said target has been located. Now moving to capture as they all moved towards Jennifer. Hey whoa, what do you want me for, you ugly bucket of bolts? Jennifer said, as she backed away hoping to avoid the robots grabbing her. Naruto and Will didn't want to reveal themselves as having powers, so they grabbed some chairs and threw them at the robots. One was destroyed, while another just got damaged. Resistance detected. Destroy all resistance before the robots open fire, shooting lasers from the cannon in the middle. Whoa, watch where you're aiming those things, Jennifer said as she went and hid behind the counter. Naruto and Will did what they could to destroy some more, with them using their powers slightly and only a little bit as they didn't know if anyone was watching on the other end of the robots. Suddenly one of the robots fired a container of tear gas which filled the room, which caused them all to cough. Naruto and Will couldn't see that a robot grabbed Jennifer and flew off. Put me down, you pile of trash, Jennifer said, as she squirmed in its grip. Okay, I have had enough, Will said as her eyes lit up and she unleashed a wave of electricity which destroyed the robot still there. Damn, that robot got away, Naruto said as he looked outside. Then let's suit up and go after her, Will said, not happy that a new friend was kidnapped right in front of them. Thankfully I can follow Jen's aura, Naruto said as they went inside to get changed. But Jennifer. Where the heck are you taking me, you stupid piece of garbage? She questioned the robot carrying her, even though she knew she wasn't going to get an answer from it. It was a while before Jen saw the Latveria embassy coming into view. Oh, I don't like this one bit, she thought to herself, as a part of the roof opened up as the robot flew through it before the roof closed behind it. The robot then lowered itself to the floor, where it let go of Jennifer, who fell in a heap on the floor before it flew off. Yeah, thanks for nothing, Jennifer said as she got up off the ground. Miss Walters, did you enjoy the flight over? She heard a voice saying. She looked around for who said that, before noticing someone sitting on a throne. It was lousy, and I never got any peanuts on the flight over, she said as she tried not to show how afraid she was, by trying to look and sound tough. The figure gave a low humming, before he leaned forward to show his face to Jennifer. She took an involuntary step back, as she was looking at Dr. Doom's metallic face. You can drop the act, my dear, he said to her as he stood up. I know that you're not as tough as you're trying to make yourself out to be. She placed her hands on her hips, as she said, well, seeing as I don't know why I'm here, or what's going on, I don't know what else to do. Ah yes, I should probably let you in on my plan, Doom said to her as he walked over to a large computer, before he pressed a few buttons. This made part of a wall slide away, revealing the alter ego of Jennifer's cousin Bruce. The Hulk behind an electric force field. Jennifer ran over, as she said, oh cuz. What's he done to you? She reached out to him, but before she touched the force field, Doom said, I wouldn't do that, my dear. Otherwise you'll get quite the nasty shock if you do. She turned around to face Doom, as she demanded, what do you want? What's your plan, metalhead? My plan is to have the Hulk do as I command, he explained to her. And why would he obey you? Jennifer asked him, as she crossed her arms. Suddenly Doom shot her in her side with a laser gun. Because if he doesn't obey, then I let you die from blood loss, here and now, Doom said, as he put the gun away. The Hulk started roaring in rage, seeing his cousin in pain, who was holding her side while groaning in pain. Relax, my green friend, I can save her. All you need to do is go attack the US embassy, you go right now, and I will save her, Doom said to him. Hulk looked at Jennifer, then looked at Doom and nodded his head. But now get going, Doom said, pushing a button that opened the rooftop, which allowed the Hulk to jump out as he headed off to the US embassy. Now I'm a man of my word, my dear, so let's get you to the lab to be healed, Doom said, as he had some of his humanoid robots carry her. He pulled a vial of green blood from his pocket, as he thought, good thing I was able to grab a sample of the Hulk's blood, as with this, I could create my very own army of Hulks. Meanwhile, Naruto and Will were heading in the direction Naruto sensed Jen's aura. Naruto was running and jumping on the rooftops while Will was flying along next to him. They were almost where Naruto could sense she was when they saw the Hulk jumping out of the building Naruto sensed she was in. I don't know where he's off to, but I can definitely sense Gen's in that building the big guy just left, Naruto said to Will. Will said, you go and see where he's going while I go and get Gen out of there. Naruto said you can't go alone, who knows what kind of security this guy has. Will then used her powers and could sense the Doom had a crazy amount of security for the embassy. And even though she could talk to technology, talking to security tech was a bit iffy since they're always so suspicious about anyone and anything. She turned back to Naruto as she nodded saying yeah, this guy's got some serious security and firepower. I think we're gonna need some help getting her out. How about some help from us then? They heard before looking up as a guy on fire came down while they saw 3 others were in a hovercraft of some kind as it flew down to the roof. The fire guy landed first and the flames around him disappeared when he landed, revealing a blonde man. They noticed the other 3 getting out of their hovercraft that landed as being a blonde-haired woman, a man with brown hair and gray sides, and some kind of rock thing. The 4 of them were each wearing uniforms that were blue and a number 4 on them. Who the heck are you guys? Will asked. The blonde guy gave a small laugh before saying, seriously, you don't know who we are? Have you been living under a rock? We are the Fantastic Four. Before he took what he thought was a heroic stance. Oh, the space guys, Naruto said as he read about them. That's it, just the space guys? The blonde guy asked, clearly upset about what Naruto said. I would be more impressed if you guys actually helped people that were more street level instead of dealing with just the space problems, Naruto said, crossing his arms. Well, if someone doesn't deal with the space stuff then Earth might be hurt, the guy with black hair said. He's got you there, Will said, looking at Naruto with a sidelong look. The A+ someone needs to clobber Doom, the Rockman said as he smashed his fists together. Wait, Dr. Doom? Will asked, recognizing the name. Why the hell would he kidnap our friend? She said. I believe it's because Miss Walters is the cousin of Bruce Banner aka the Hulk, the blonde woman explained. Great, so this asshole is manipulating the Hulk by holding his cousin hostage, Naruto said, with an unhappy look on his face. Any ideas, Reed? The Rockman said, hoping that he had a few. I'm thinking we split up, Ben. We confront Doom while our friends go free, Miss Walters, Reed said. Small problem, the Hulk went somewhere in that direction, Naruto said as he pointed where the Hulk had jumped. The American embassy. Okay, Johnny and Ben, you go slow down the Hulk, try to tell him we are saving his cousin and need his help, the blonde woman said, looking at the blonde man and Ben. On it, Susie, Ben said with a nod. Leave it to us, sis, Johnny said as he gave her a thumbs up before they went in the direction Hulk went, with Johnny lighting on fire, saying flame on, and flew off while Ben jumped from rooftop to rooftop. Meanwhile, the rest of us confront Doom and rescue the Hulk's cousin after we get past the security, Reed said. On it, Will said, touching the door. Hey, open up or I'll drain you of your life force, Will said. I like your attitude, miss, plus that Doom guy is an ass. Go on, in a voice said from the door as it opened. Fascinating, how did you do that? Reed asked, looking at Will in interest as they entered a hallway. She can bring electronic devices to life, Naruto said with a smile, before adding it's magic based, though, so good luck getting a better explanation than that. There is no such thing as magic, Reed said with certainty. It's merely science that we haven't found a way to understand yet. That's actually a good theory, Will said as she never thought about her powers like that before. Still calling it magic though, she said as they were approaching a door and she touched a security camera. Your green friend is in the door to the left, the same voice as before said. No complaints from me, Susan said as not fighting security was a nice change of pace. Wait, green friend? Naruto asked in confusion. Earlier with Jennifer. Jennifer was laid out on a medical table, well strapped down and hooked up to an IV that had the Hulk's blood in it that was almost empty as it entered Jennifer. Suddenly a TV inside turned on showing Doom. Fascinating, you are completely healed, he said, surprised the Hulk's blood works so well. But now let me go, you tin can. Jennifer said as she struggled against the straps. Soon enough I will free you, as I'm a man of my word, Miss Walters. Let's just hope your cousin doesn't fail being my attack dog against the US Embassy, Doom said as he turned off the TV he was on. You leave my cousin alone, you piece of. Jennifer was yelling in anger, but suddenly stopped as she felt something changing with her body. She lurched up as green veins appeared on her arms and her eyes turned green. She started getting slightly bigger, along with gaining some muscles. Whoa mama, I'm suddenly starting to feel good, she moaned out. Her hair got longer, along with turning green, as did her skin turning green. Oh, it feels like somebody really lit my fire. She then broke the straps, as though they were twigs, before standing up. Whoa, look at me, I'm smoking hot now, she said, looking into a mirror when suddenly a door opened and Naruto and Will entered. Jennifer? Naruto asked, shocked at what he was seeing. Hey fellas, what do you think of the new me? Jennifer said as she struck a pose. Naruto was silent for a moment but suddenly shook his head so he could focus. I think he likes it, Jen, Will said with a smile at Naruto trying and failing at focusing. What did that quack do to you? Naruto asked, trying to focus on the task at hand. He shot me and threatened to let me die if my cousin disobeyed him, Jennifer said with a growl. And let me guess, he used your cousin's blood to heal you and this happened, Will said gesturing at Jennifer's new body. Exactly, and now I'm gonna kick his sorry metal ass. Jennifer said with a confident grin as she punched her fist into her hand. Well, he's right through this wall, fighting some new friends of ours, Naruto said as his eyes lit up from using his sage senses. Ooh, handsome and has powers to boot, Jennifer said walking towards Naruto who gulped nervously at the way she was looking at him. She trailed a finger on his chest before saying, how's about after this you and me go on a date? But I'm dating Will, Naruto said, trying to resist Jennifer's charms. Ooh, well, I find her cute too. Maybe we can all date each other and have some fun in the bedroom sometime. Jennifer said with a sexy smile and wink. Naruto turned to Will who was turning red not from anger surprisingly, but from holding back her laughter from seeing Naruto so helpless. Are you gonna help me or laugh at me? He asked her. We can discuss the harem stuff later, Jen. First let's go help our friends with Doom, Will said with a smile. Jen nodded, but she gave Naruto a quick kiss on the cheek, which left him blushing. I can't believe that she went from Miss Shy to Miss Confident Bombshell, he thought as Jennifer walked over to the wall that led to Doom and smashed through it easily. She'd also put a little extra sway in her hips as she walked to tease Naruto further embarrassing him. Will finally couldn't take it anymore and started laughing at Naruto. Man, I definitely need flirting tips from Jen, this is hilarious, she said as she followed after Jen to fight Doom. Naruto shook his head as he thought, I need some guy friends to hang out with before following them. You dare interfere with Dr. Doom, the madman yelled as he attacked Reed with an energy blast from his gauntlets, which was blocked by a force field courtesy of Sue. You can't keep this up forever, my dear, you have a limit. While I don't, Doom said as he kept firing at her shield, which was taking its toll on her. You should have brought your friend Grim with you if you wanted a chance. Suddenly Jennifer burst through the wall and landed before Doom. Will a She-Hulk do, metalhead? She asked as she slugged Doom hard in the face, sending him flying into a wall. She cracked her knuckles as she said, damn, that felt good. Doom pulled himself from the wall and upon seeing Jen's new look said, astonishing. I had no idea that giving you your cousin's blood would produce this. Is it because you're related or something else? He then questioned before pressing a button on his wrist which caused the walls to rise up and more of his robots to enter as he said, I'll need to capture you to study, my dear green lady. Suddenly there was a flash and Doom's robots fell to the ground destroyed with Will appearing in front of him in the air ready to kick him, her body covered in lightning, but a bubble shield blocked her instantly. Fascinating, and who may you be, my dear? Doom asked as Will jumped back from him. I'm the one who's going to kick your ass for taking my friend, she said, giving him a glare with lightning flashing in her eyes. I see, magic I assume. And I'm sensing something else, some kind of energy that is boosting you exponentially, he said to her. Shit, this guy is observant, Will thought as that was a lot to deduce after one attack. She knew she had to be careful now that he was interested in her. Suddenly Naruto walked in and glared at Doom. If you have questions, then direct them at me, Chromodome, he said, his eyes glowing. Ah, I see, you must be her teacher since you are obviously much more powerful. Tell me, why would a man of your obvious power settle at being a regular man with a restaurant when you could be a king or even a god? Doom asked him, interested what his answer would be. Easy answer, because I'm not interested in power or living like a king. I just want to help people and live my life the way I want to, Naruto told him. An intriguing answer, but you realize that when the world finds out about you and your lightning lady friend, people both good and bad will come to you. And some of those people will want to study you and find out how your powers work, Doom said as he got ready to attack. And when that day comes, I will send them back to their masters beaten, Naruto said, going into sage mode ready to fight. Suddenly the roof caved in and a green figure dropped in between Doom and Naruto. Doom. The Hulk yelled, upset that he hurt his family. Wow, I'm surprised you two convinced him to turn around, Will said looking at Johnny and Ben who dropped into the building. Wasn't easy, he's pretty stubborn, believe me, Johnny said. Well duh, hothead, you attacked him first before I could tell him we were saving his cousin. Which by the way, after I told him he booked it back here, Ben said. Hulk suddenly grabbed Doom in his hands and squeezed him hard, but he just exploded into robot parts. You're kidding me, that was a robot this whole time? Naruto asked, impressed that Doom had a robot that fooled him. Never underestimate Victor, he's the self-proclaimed master of science and magic, Reed said, sighing that Doom escaped again. Great, now he's interested in us, Will said, unhappy that a supervillain was interested in them. Whoa, who's the Jade Amazon? Johnny asked. Sorry blonde, but I'm only interested in another blonde, Jen said as she rested her arm on Naruto's shoulder as she gave Naruto a wink. Aw man, so not cool Johnny said as he dropped his head while thinking lucky blonde bastard. Jennifer? Hulk asked, walking over to look at his cousin. Yeah, it's me cuss Jennifer said smiling at the Hulk. Hulk smiled back, but then grabbed his head as he shrunk down to his regular form. You okay man? Naruto asked him, helping the now Bruce Banner up from the floor. I'll be fine, but I need a good meal in me for now Bruce said, as he was starving. No problem big man, follow me. We should have our restaurant fixed quickly in no time Naruto said to him. Thank you Magic, Will said as they took off back to the rising tide. Hey you four, you helped us so you deserve a free meal too Naruto said looking at the Fantastic Four. Yay, plus Naruto needs male friends Will said, as she laughed at Naruto hanging his head. The four of them shrugged, as Ben said sure me and Johnny could use some more friends. Are you any good at poker? Will snorted, he got banned from Vegas. My man has the devil's luck. They were all shocked, as some of them thought, no way anyone is that lucky. Ooh Blondie, maybe we should play some strip poker later, Jen said, hoping to get a rise out of Naruto or Bruce, as either of their reactions would make her day. Bruce was surprised at his cousin's new attitude. Wow I always said you should open up, but geez Jen, I wasn't expecting this he told her. Well get used to it, cause She-Hulk is here to stay she said, as she flexed her muscles a little. Great name, Will said, giving Jennifer a thumbs up showing her approval. You guys need her names too you know Johnny said as he was pretty sure these two were rookies. Later I'm starving now too Naruto said as they arrived at the rising tide and Will started fixing the place with her magic. An hour later, they were eating together and chatting like old friends. Eventually they all split into two groups, with the girls taking one end of the restaurant and the guys taking the other. Ben pulled out some cards as he said okay blonde. Let's see how lucky you are with a good game of poker. Naruto shrugged as he said sure thing. So who else is playing? As he looked at the others. Johnny immediately put his hand up, saying I'm in. Bruce and Reed gave a shrug, seeing no harm in playing. Let's do this, Ben said as he cut the deck. So Naruto if I may ask, what else do you and Will use to fight? Reed asked. The old metalhead seemed really interested Johnny said. Well I guess since we are all heroes, I can share some basic information, and yes Bruce you are a hero. That abomination incident in Harlem is proof of threat Naruto said. Bruce looked unsure as he didn't really agree with Naruto. Yeah you did great man Johnny said, as he gave a nod of agreement. Indeed Reed said, nodding in agreement. Hear hear. Ben said as he passed out the cards. As they played, Naruto explained what chakra was to them. So anyone can learn this? Johnny asked, surprised that it wasn't a genetic thing. Naruto shrugged as he replied, so long as you train and put in some effort, sure. Well if you're willing to train us in it, I can promise you that we won't tell anyone how to do it, Reed said, as he was interested in learning new things. Same here Ben said. Bruce nodded, agreeing with them. Good, this is something I would like to keep out of the hands of assholes like Doom Naruto said. Bruce gained a sour look on his face as he said, don't be surprised if a man called General Ross comes knocking, demanding that you start teaching soldiers how to use it. PFFT, I wish that asshole would show up to demand us to help him again, Ben said growling as that man tried making demands of them before, but they sent him packing pretty quick. Ah typical government asshole. Naruto asked, getting nods from everyone at the table. Noted and I think I won, Naruto said as he laid his cards down. That's the fifth hand in a row. Johnny said, in complete shock at how many times Naruto had won. I told you he had the devil's luck Will yelled from her table with Jennifer and Susan, as they laughed. So what are you ladies talking about? Naruto asked. Well, Susan offered to let me train with them so I can get some control, Jennifer said with a smile. Good idea, Naruto said, nodding. After that, I'll continue being a defensive attorney while being a hero at the same time Jennifer said. That's a great idea, Naruto said with a smile. Will be a popular hero and lawyer with my looks Jennifer said with a smile as she flipped her hair over her shoulder. Speaking of heroes, do you two have hero names yet? Johnny asked. I got mine, call me Guardian Will said with a smile thinking about what inspired that name. I think I'll go with Sage. What do you think? Naruto asked the others. Both are great names fellas Susan said with a smile. The guys went back to their poker game as Jen turned to Will and asked her so Will, what do you think of me and Naruto dating? It's fine, as long as you actually like him and this isn't a booty call Will said being blunt. Jennifer gave a nod as she said yeah I like him. I think he's cool, funny, handsome, and he knows how to cook which is a really great perk in my book. Be grateful he can cook now. Took him a while to stop burning everything Will said, shuddering while remembering the taste of his first few meals. Jen also leaned in as she whispered how big's his tool. Will whispered back, let's just say that he'll reshape you forever. This left Jen intrigued and couldn't wait for when her first time came with him. The men and women talked into the night as it was a good friendship forming. A month later. Man, Jennifer is getting pretty popular as a lawyer thanks to her new looks, Will said as she read the paper, which had an interview with Jennifer. That plus her hero work, Naruto said as he served some customers. Anything else in the paper? He asked her. Well, the president got attacked by a mutant in his own White House, Will said as she turned to the next page. How the hell did the mutant get past all his men? Naruto asked, as even for a mutant that was a tall order. According to the paper, he was everywhere and nowhere at once, Will said, passing the paper to Naruto, who read it. Wait, the mutant was that fast, but still got shot before he could hurt the president. I smell a frame job, Naruto said, as that was way too convenient for him. Are we going to go find this guy? Will asked as the last customer left after paying. Yay, otherwise this will bug the hell out of me, Naruto said, before they went to get ready. Any ideas for how to find this guy? Will asked him, as they packed a few clothes. Naruto shook his head, as he replied, not yet, but I'm sure I'll think of something. Suddenly a small portal shaped like a giant ring appeared and a letter fell through it as the portal disappeared, which Naruto caught. Weird, Naruto said as he opened the letter. Head for these coordinates if you wish to help all of mutant kind. Signed a friend, he read from it. Well, it's better than chasing our tails, Will said, as she shrugged her shoulders. Naruto nodded in agreement as they left. A few hours later that night. Are we there yet? Will asked Naruto as they flew over a forest, with Will using her wings and Naruto on a summoned bird. I think that's it, Naruto said, pointing at a light which was a campfire. They also noticed what looked like a black jet near the campfire. Well, let's go introduce ourselves, Naruto said, before they descended to the camp. When they landed they saw a small group of people. Who are you? A woman with long silver hair asked. Name's Sage and this is Guardian, Naruto said with a smile, trying to be friendly. Never heard of you. So get lost, Bubba man said as he grew metal claws on his hands. Ouch. Will said as she winced seeing his claws appear. Now Logan, let's be nice to our guests, a man said in a Cajun accent, who was holding a deck of cards. You're just saying that because one of them is a woman, you horn dog, a woman said with a southern belle accent and a stripe of white hair. You wound me with your words, my dear rogue, the man said, as he had a fake look of hurt on his face. She is telling the truth, Gambit, Logan said, as they all knew he was quite a pervert at times. Enough, all of you, a woman with red hair said as she approached Naruto and Will. They are here to help us, but I can't read the blonde's mind, she said. Hey. Will yelled, getting that the deed was a mind reader and she just read her mind. Relax, your secrets are safe with me. I was just checking if you were hostile. The name's Jean Grey, she said, introducing herself. So they are allies? A man that looked like a demon said in a German accent asked, while sitting in a tree. Yes, Kurt, they can be of help, Jean said, while nodding her head. Oh really? A man with a helmet asked as he approached along with what looked like a naked blue woman that had red hair and a man with flamethrowers on his arms. Oh great, him, Will said, recognizing Magneto since he was all over the news as the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Yes, my dear, I assume you have heard of me from the lies the humans have told about me, he said as he tried to make himself seem important. I don't know, the graves you have filled is pretty good evidence that it's the truth, Will said, glaring at Magneto. The man with flamethrowers took a step towards Will but was stopped by Magneto, who shook his head no at him. So how can you help? The woman with white hair asked. Name's Aurora, by the way, she said. Well, first, what's the situation? I'm gonna guess something that involves mind control, since from what I sense from Kurt, he's a pacifist, so I don't see him attacking the White House unless mind control is involved, Naruto said to them. Smart, Logan said, slightly impressed with Naruto. After an explanation from Jean, Naruto and Will had all the information they needed. Great, a Black Ops group that's planning a genocide, Naruto said, clearly angry at the leader of this group. So the plan is to just go in and save this professor and your students? Will asked, just to clarify. And stop his plan, Rogue said. Well, let's get going, it's dawn, Logan said. Everyone on the X-Jet, Gambit said to Will, so sweetheart, how about after this we get to know each other better? She shook her head as she replied, sorry, but I'm already in a relationship with Sage. Plus I can tell you're a playboy. This made some of the others laugh at Gambit being turned down. Finally, someone besides me can tell he's a dog, Rogue said, laughing as she held her sides from laughing so much. Everyone, take your seats please, Jean said with a smile as even she found this funny. Everyone sat down and strapped themselves in as the X-Jet took off. So tell me, are you two mutants? Magneto asked, looking at Naruto as he was interested to learn about them. No, we just don't like bullies, humans are mutants, Naruto said, glaring at Magneto. Magneto does what needs to be done, the blue woman said as she came to his defense. Please, I can tell a con easily from a mile away. He's just mad at the world because he's had it tough, which is never an excuse to murder people who had nothing to do with what happened to him. How am I doing in the ballpark? Naruto asked, looking at Magneto with no fear. Ha. He's got you pegged, Magneto, Logan said with a smirk as he smoked a cigar. Please, we don't need a psychiatrist degree to figure him out, Will said, rolling her eyes. So what are your powers? Rogue asked in curiosity. Lightning and some other tricks, Will said as she made sparks appear on her hand. And you love? Rogue asked, turning to Naruto. Let's just say I'm a man of many talents, my dear, Naruto said with a smile as Rogue smiled at Naruto. See, now that's called having game, Logan said to Gambit, who was surprised that Naruto got a smile out of Rogue. We are approaching our destination, Jean said as they came into a landing. So what's the plan? Naruto asked as they got up. Stryker wants me, so I'm thinking I enter into the base and find the control room, Logan said. And what are you going to do, Logan? Scratch it with your claws? Magneto sarcastically asked him. At least I'm coming up with a plan, old man. What's your excuse, too old to think of one? Logan bit back in irritation. I have an idea, Magneto said as he explained his idea. It's a good idea, but I have an idea to add to it, Naruto said as he approached Mystique. 30 minutes later. The group of soldiers were escorting Logan into the base with his arms bound. When they got in, the room was filled with soldiers armed and ready, with Stryker looking at Logan. Stryker looked at Logan and turned to his captain. I know my work, that's not my work, he said with certainty. Logan smirked and slipped out of his restraints and transformed into Mystique and pulled out a kunai and stabbed it into the floor. Suddenly Naruto, Will and the X-Men along with Magneto and Pyro appeared where the kunai struck. Surprise, bitches. Will yelled as she unleashed lightning on the whole room, which made all of the electronics go haywire. Take them out. Naruto yelled as him and the others attacked. As they all attacked, Logan noticed something. Stryker was trying to slip away. Stryker. He yelled as he followed after him. Shit, we need him alive. Rogue called out as she grabbed a guy who fell to the ground. On it, Naruto said as he took off to help Logan, but to make sure he didn't kill Stryker. When he caught up, he found them talking in a room with what looked like a pod. You know, I used to think you were unique, Logan, but I was wrong, Stryker said as he approached the pod's controls. What are you talking about? Logan asked, readying his claws. Eat your clone, or if you want to be sentimental, your daughter, Stryker said as he pushed a button which made the pod open. The young woman fell out of the pod and looked at Stryker with hate in her eyes, while touching her neck which had a collar around it. Yes, it is armed, now kill him or it goes off. Your healing factor won't save you from this bomb, girl, Stryker said, while holding a detonator in his hand. The young woman looked at Logan and from her hands came 2 claws on each hand. Oh shit, Logan said, sadly knowing what this girl was. You're a dead man, Stryker. Logan yelled in rage as the young woman attacked him with a kick, showing she had a blade on each foot too. Not yet, I'm not, Stryker said as he walked to the door, but was stopped as Naruto grabbed him by the arm that had the detonator and put him on a submission hold. Talk, asshole. Who is that girl? Naruto asked him, with a cross look. We call her X-23. She's a clone of Logan, made to be a weapon for the government until one of her caretakers tried to free her, he explained to him. Naruto growled and stabbed him in the arm with a kunai and took the detonator from him. You stay here, or my kunai will blow up and take your arm with it, he said to Stryker, who was holding his arm in pain. Naruto turned to the fight going on between X-23 and Logan was barely fighting back as he didn't want to hurt her. Naruto used his speed to appear behind X-23 and grabbed her, but she slipped out of his hold and jumped on him trying to stab him. Shit, this girl is strong, Naruto thought as he kept her from stabbing him. What the hell is going on? Will asked as she and the others arrived to back them up. She's being forced to fight us. Will, bribe her bomb collar or something please. Naruto yelled as X-23 had him against a wall trying to stab him. Will quickly flew over and grabbed her collar and as app later it opened and fell off. X-23 stopped and grabbed her neck in shock. She then looked at Stryker, who was still pinned by Naruto's kunai, and gained a look of pure rage and ran at him with her claws ready to dig into his chest. Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her and blocked her, then threw her towards the exit. She snarled at him but looked at the others with him and then opened the exit and fled. Wait. Logan said, getting up fully healed ready to go after her. Don't bother, she's more animal than you. I made sure of it when I killed her caregiver, Stryker said as he had a twisted grin on his face. So you basically killed her mother? Naruto asked with his eyes turning into the Rinnegan. Pretty much, you mutant-free, Stryker was saying until Naruto grabbed him by his neck. I usually don't do this, but you are truly one of the most evil men I have met, Naruto said as he put his hand to Stryker's forehead, who began to scream in agony as his soul was ripped out of him by Naruto. Once his soul was gone, Stryker fell to the ground dead. Kurt started praying for Stryker, as to him it was the right thing to do. Naruto looked at the body with disgust, like he just touched something disgusting. You okay? Will asked him, hoping that he was. I will be, once we save the students and the professor, Naruto replied. Follow me, I got the information from his captain, Jean said. Where the hell is Magneto and his groupies? Naruto asked, noticing that they were not there. Shit. Logan said, knowing that Magneto was going to be causing trouble. But Magneto had just reversed the Cerebro duplicate to kill all humans when he was struck by Naruto, who held him against a wall. What did you do? Talk. Naruto demanded from him. Iroh attacked with his flames, which made Naruto drop Magneto. Last chance, asshole, Naruto said as appeared behind Pyro, his hand on his head and his Rinnegan active. What did you do? Naruto again demanded. You would rip out his soul to make me talk? Magneto asked him, thinking he wouldn't do it since he wasn't as evil as Stryker. In a heartbeat, he's got a high body count like you do, so I won't lose much sleep doing it, Naruto said with a shrug. Eric Mystique said to Magneto as she could tell Naruto wasn't bluffing, seeing the seriousness in his eyes. I reverse Cerebro, so that all humans would die instead of all the mutants, Magneto said to him. Naruto then kicked Pyro to Magneto and said, you and your groupies have 5 minutes to leave before I bury you. I have a machine to trash, he said as he left to go stop the Cerebro duplicate. Iroh went to attack again, but Magneto grabbed his shoulder and shook his head. We have lost this battle today, let's leave. For now we have a much bigger plan to prepare, he said as they left. Outside the base. That went better than expected, despite the soul ripping, Gambit said, giving Naruto a look. Let's get the students and the professor along with Scott home, Jean said as they all boarded the X-Jet. Logan was sniffing around trying to catch a scent but had no luck. No luck finding her? Naruto asked Logan, who shook his head. Don't worry, we will keep an eye out for you, Will said, trying to give Logan some hope. If we see anything from her, we will call you, Logan, Naruto said as he placed a hand on his shoulder. I would like to extend my thanks to you too, Charles said as Scott carried him. I'm glad we could help, Naruto said, nodding at the man. Thanks for the help, Suga, Rogue said as she pinched Naruto's cheek. Text you later, Rogue. Will yelled, waving as they took off back to New York. You and Rogue sure got along, Will said with a smirk as they flew home. I'm ignoring you, Naruto said, not looking at Will, whose smile got bigger. Whatever you say, Suga, Will said, using Rogue's accent before she gave a laugh as Naruto groaned at her joke. A month later. Naruto and Will were each serving customers as the place had become quite popular after the incident with the thugs. As they were, the bell above the door rang as the door was pushed open, letting them know they had another customer. Welcome, Naruto said as he was busy behind the counter with his head underneath as he looked for some more glass mats. You will have to excuse us as we've been fairly busy today. I would expect nothing less from the restaurant that the Fantastic Four endorsed, a woman's voice said. After finding some more glass mats, Naruto then popped up from behind the counter and said, now how can I help? As before him was a drop-dead gorgeous blonde woman who was dressed all in white. The woman looked at Naruto with a smile. Well, aren't you a handsome specimen, she said while looking him over. Thanks for the compliment, miss. Naruto asked, hoping to get her name. Emma Frost, the woman said, which got a reaction out of Will, who grabbed Naruto and dragged him into the kitchen for a private chat. Be right back, Miss Frost, Naruto called out as Will pulled his arm. Take your time, Emma said with a smile. What's up? Naruto asked Will, curious about her reaction. Your new friend is a mutant. Rouge told me about her, she's a telepath that has manipulated men and dumped them when she's bored with them, Will said with a frown, as this was a worse version of her old friend Cornelia. Relax, you remember those Genjutsu exercises I taught you? Naruto asked as he held Will's hand. Yeah, I remember them. You made me practice them until I could do them in my sleep, she said. Well, it's effective against telepaths, not completely, but it will stop her from controlling us at least, Naruto said. Thank goodness, Will said, as she didn't want some blonde bimbo manipulating and hurting Naruto. Come on, Will, you're prejudging her just because she's a telepath, Naruto said, sounding disappointed in her. Okay, I'll be friendly for you, Will said as Naruto smiled and gave her a kiss on the cheek as they walked out of the kitchen. Everything okay? Emma asked as she put down a menu to look at Naruto and Will. Everything is fine, so what can I get you? Naruto asked as he pulled out a notepad to take her order. Well, your fruit salad sounds wonderful, Emma said with a smile as she leaned forward to show some of her revealed cleavage at Naruto, and she wanted to get a reaction from Will. Naruto wrote it down and smiled. You're in luck, Miss Frost, we just got a fresh supply of fruit in, Naruto said as he went into the kitchen. A gentleman. How refreshing, Emma thought, as that move usually made men start to leer at her like a piece of meat. Nice try, but Naruto prefers to actually know someone. Looks are just a bonus to him, Will said as she handed Emma a glass of water. Interesting, Emma said as she tried to read Will's mind and saw something she didn't expect. I see you two have met the X-Men, she said, sounding disappointed. Yes, and it seems Naruto was right. His training made it harder for you to read my mind, Will said to her smugly. I'll leave if you want, Emma said, as she figured that they wouldn't trust a telepath with her reputation. Will frowned before shaking her head, saying no. I promised Naruto I would give you a chance. So why are you here in New York? She then asked Emma. Got sick of manipulating people to get what I wanted. Way too boring, so I decided to move to New York and open a dance club, Emma said truthfully. And thanks to my powers, I'm able to tell when things are getting out of hand, she added. I had you pegged as a Will was saying, but stop trying to find the right words. Shallow bitch? Emma asked with a smile, as she'd heard it before and quite frankly she agreed. She was like that before. Will laughed, before saying, well, at least you can admit it, which shows you're not so bad now. Name's Will Vandam, welcome to the neighborhood, Emma, Will said, as she held out her hand. Emma took her hand and shook it as she smiled. Thanks, Will, she said. Glad to see you gossiping with Rouge didn't ruin your chance to make a new friend, Naruto said as he came out with Emma's fruit salad. Yay, she said, you stole Gambit from her back when they were teens, Will said. Ugh, not one of my best moments, but to be fair, I barely did anything to attract him, Emma said as she still wanted to apologize to Rouge for that. Well, she's not that mad since she knows Gambit is a dog now. So she most likely will let you get an apology out, Will said with a smile, as she knew Rouge had a temper but a good conscience. Emma smiled, glad that her last actions didn't cause anything long-lasting. Suddenly, a man in a black suit came into the restaurant. Can I help you, sir? Naruto asked as he moved towards him. Hello, Mr. Uzumaki. I am Agent Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. The man, Coulson, said. You mean those guys that defend against meta-human threats? Will asked, having heard of them. Indeed. I see the theory that you can talk to electronics is true, as we believe that is how you know so much, Coulson said with a nod. What do your bosses want? Naruto asked him as he crossed his arms. We have a situation that could put the world in danger. I have been ordered to bring you two in to help with the situation, he told them. He's telling the truth, Emma said, having taken a quick look in his mind. Miss Frost, I have been briefed on you. I'm glad you decided to be a better person, but I'm afraid you must stay behind, he told her. Probably for the best, since the government are not fans of mutants, Emma said, getting up. Here, handsome, keep in touch, she said, handing Naruto and Will a business card as she then left. Well, if the world is in danger, then let's do this, Naruto said out loud. Yay, lead the way, Will said as she gestured her hand at Coulson. Good, you two were the most easy to convince besides Cap, Coulson said, relieved. Are you recruiting more? Naruto asked him. Cap? Will asked, before she said, surely you don't mean who I think you mean. I thought that guy was dead. So did we all, but he somehow got suspended in ice. We only found him about 4 months ago, and we've done our best to rehabilitate him back into the world, Coulson told them, with Naruto telling he was trying his best to not act like a giddy little schoolboy. Obviously a fan of the captain, he thought, giving his head a slight shake while a small smile was on his lips. A few hours later, aboard the helicarrier. Wow, this place is cool, Will said, looking around. Hands in pockets, Miss Vandam, a bold black man with an eye patch, said, walking into the room. Oh, Will said, as she pouted cutely before doing as he said. Probably for the best with your abilities, Natasha said, walking into the room with Bruce behind her. Ah, hello Katie and heya Bruce, Naruto said to the two of them. Hey Naruto, Bruce said as he shook their hands. I see that they brought you both in as well. They both nodded before the bald man cleared his throat to get their attention. Mr. Uzumaki and Miss Vandam, this is Natasha Romanoff, Special Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and one of my best, he said, as she walked over to them. Ah, so I was right when I said that you looked more like a Natasha than a Katie, Naruto said to her. She gave a shrug as she said, sorry about that. I was instructed to get whatever info I could about you two, since you two popped up about 3 years ago so suddenly and without warning. So I'd sent her to see what she could learn about the two of you, her boss said. Name's Nick Fury, by the way, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Well then, Nikki, Naruto said as Will snorted with laughter while Bruce gave a chuckle, with Natasha just shaking her head as Nick narrowed his eye. What's the problem, since you need all of our help? Approximately several hours ago, we were testing an unknown alien object when we were attacked by a man named Loki, Fury said as he pushed a button that showed footage of Loki's attack. Wait, you mean the god of mischief is actually real? Naruto said, with a surprised look. Very real, Mr. Uzumaki, Fury told him. Great, what's next, his brother Thor? Will asked sarcastically. Fury and Natasha were silent as Coulson looked off to one side. Will's eyes widened in realization. Oh, for fuck's sake, I was just kidding. Will said as she threw her arms up. Language please, miss, a man said, walking into the room. Well, if it isn't the star-spangled man with a plan, Naruto said with a smile. Will snorted at this, while Coulson shook his head at Naruto's antics. I read your file, Mr. Uzumaki, and I'm impressed that you just help people because it's right. That's sadly rare in these times, Steve said with a slightly sad look. There's more good in the world than you think. Just takes work to remove the grime, Naruto said. Good sentiment, but for now let's focus on tracking Loki down, Fury said to all of them. Yes, we need to find the Tesseract, Steve said with a determined look. Mr. Fury. A woman said approaching them. Yes, Miss Hill. Fury asked. We have found Loki, he's at a party in Stuttgart, she explained to them. Why the hell would he be there? Will asked, curious what Loki was planning. Let's ask him when we beat him, Naruto said as he slammed his fist into the palm of his hand. Stuttgart, sometime later. He has a flair for the dramatic, doesn't he? Will asked. As they watched Loki make a group of people kneel before him. He's an attention-seeking ass, Naruto said bluntly, with his arms crossed. That too, now let's go help Cap kick his ass, Will said, as Cap started to fight Loki, while the civilians ran. Let's, Naruto said as him and Will flew towards the fight. Loki had his staff at Cap's back and was telling him to kneel, when Will struck him with a lightning kick which sent him flying into a fountain. Ah, the visitor from another dimension and his wench, Loki said as he got up, barely affected by Will's attack. Naruto suddenly appeared before Loki and shoved a Rasengan into his chest, which sent him flying into a bus. Little bit overkill, don't you think? Natasha asked over a speaker on the Quinjet that was above them. Please, that was a love tap. He's a god, right? Will asked. And in my opinion, there's no such thing as overkill, Naruto added. Thanks for the backup, Cap said as he picked up his shield. Loki suddenly jumped out of the Rekage and landed in front of the three heroes. Before the fight could continue, they heard some rock music playing over the speakers. Suddenly, some beams hit Loki, sending him to the ground as Iron Man landed in front of Loki and aimed his weapons at him. Your move, reindeer games, he quipped. Little late, aren't you? Naruto asked him sarcastically. Probably could have showed up on time if he didn't have to show off with that music crap, Will said, crossing her arms. Who's the ninja and Tinkerbell? Iron Man asked, looking at Cap as he bound Loki's arms in some cuffs. The hell did he call me? Will yelled, not liking to be named after a fictional character. Well, it's better than being called a witch, Naruto said as they boarded the Quinjet. Plus you do look like a fairy, Cap said, shrugging his shoulders. Will growled in annoyance as she stomped onto the Quinjet. 30 minutes later. Great, a lightning storm, Naruto said from his seat. Are you scared of lightning? Tony asked Loki sarcastically while standing up across from him with Cap standing next to him. I'm not overly fond of what comes next, Loki said as he wearily looked at the roof. Naruto just gave him a glare as they then heard something landing on the roof of the Quinjet which made it shake a little and jostle those inside it. Tony and Cap placed their helmets back on before Tony walked to the back as he opened up the ramp. Naruto and Will stood up as they got ready for whatever came through the ramp. What are you doing? Rogers asked Tony. Once the ramp was lowered down, everyone saw a blonde-haired man wielding a hammer of some kind land at the back as he entered the Quinjet. Oh great, I should have kept my mouth shut, Will said, recognizing who this obviously was. Thor pushes Tony out of the way and walks towards Loki, but Naruto tackled Thor and they rolled down the ramp and out of the Quinjet. Naruto. Will yelled before she followed after them to see that Naruto was alright. Stay with the god of pranks or whatever he's called, Tony said to Cap as he followed. But Naruto. Naruto and Thor landed on a mountainside and were glaring at each other. You have no idea what you're dealing with, whispered mortal Thor said while hefting his hammer. I have heard that before, so either explain yourself or leave, Naruto said as he got ready in case Thor attacked. I will not be ordered around by you, Thor said as he threw his hammer at Naruto. Naruto dodged the hammer and charged at Thor with a Rasengan in his hand as he struck Thor and sent him flying from the mountainside into the forest below. Nice attack, Hayabusa, Tony said as he flew past Naruto to go attack Thor. Wait for me, you show off, Naruto said as he followed. Wait. Will said as she landed nearby. Man, she said under her breath as she looked around and spotted Thor's hammer on the ground with the handle in the air. But Naruto. Naruto landed near where Tony and Thor were talking, just as Tony pretended to speak like Shakespeare. Thor was not amused as he held out his hand as if he was waiting for something. He looked at his hand surprised while thinking, why does Mjolnir not return to me? Heads up. Will shouted as she appeared in a flash and struck Thor in the face with Mjolnir, sending him flying into a tree. Nice shot, Tink, Tony said, impressed, before he backed up as she glared at him as she said, don't call me that or any other fairy-like name. Thor threw a tree off of him and looked at Will in shock. You want another? Will asked, holding up Mjolnir, ready for him to attack. Wait. I don't think we should fight now, not if you are worthy of lifting Mjolnir, Thor said. What, you mean hammer time? Tony asked, looking between Will and Thor. Only the worthy are capable of lifting my hammer. So if this maiden can do it and she's on your side, then we shouldn't fight, Thor said. Well, at least this fight ended before someone got hurt, Naruto said as he gave a sigh of relief. Back at the Helicarrier, sometime later. Everyone except Tony were sitting or standing in the command center as they heard Loki and Fury talking. He really grows on ya, doesn't he? Bruce said, with his hand on his chin, as the video feed turned off after the two finished their chat. He's an asshole, plain and simple, Will said, sitting down next to Naruto and Steve. Naruto nodded in agreement as he said, and if this guy thinks he's the best at pranks and mischief, he hasn't met me at my best when I'm doing them. He's playing us, Natasha said as she gave Loki a calculating look on the screen. Agreed, Loki's going to try and drag this out as much as he can, Naruto said in agreement, as it was classic tactics to make your foes look in one direction when they should have looked in the other. So, Thor, what's his play gonna be? Steve asked Thor. Thor turned to the others and replied, Loki has an army called the Chitauri. All I know is that they are not of Asgard or of any of the known worlds. He'll mean to lead them against you all so that they may win him the earth and I suspect for the Tesseract in return. An army, that's from outer space. Naruto said in disbelief. Will just shook her head as she said, looks like things'll really heat up if he gets them here. So that means he's building another portal then, Bruce said as he took his glasses off. Which explains what he needed Eric Selvig for. Selvig? Thor said, recognizing the name. He's an astrophysicist, Bruce explained to him. He's also a friend, Thor said to them. Natasha leaned forward as she said Loki's got him under some kinda spell, along with one of our own. What I want to know is, why did Loki let us grab him? Steve said, as he ain't leading any army from here, that's for sure. Bruce shook his head, saying I don't think that we should focus on Loki. That guy's brain is a bag full of cats, you can literally smell the crazy coming off him. Take care how you speak, Thor said, as he took a few steps forward. Loki may be beyond reason, but he is of Asgard. And he's my brother. He killed 80 people in 2 days, Natasha told him. Thor shrugged sheepishly as he replied he's adopted. I think it's more about the mechanics. The iridium, what do they need the iridium for? Bruce said to them. Stability, a voice said, making them all turn to see Stark and Coulson enter the room. Stark whispered something to Coulson before they separated as Stark continued, it means that the portal won't collapse on itself like it did at S.H.I.E.L.D. He then went over to the computer consoles, also it means that She portal can open as wide and stay open for as long as Loki wants it to. He then faced the front and said raise the mizzenmast and jib the topsails. This made all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents stop working as they looked at him in confusion. Tony then pointed at an agent as he said that man is playing Galaga. He thought that none of us would notice, but we did. He then pretended to be Fury as he placed his hand over his eye to look like Fury's eye patch and said, how does Fury even see all those computer screens? He turns, Hill replied in a sharp tone of voice. Sounds exhausting, Tony replied, trying to be funny. He then started touching some of the computer screens while still talking as he went from one side to the other. As for the rest of the raw materials, I'm sure Agent Barton can get his hands on pretty easily. The only major component that he needs is a power source of high energy density. He placed a small device on one of the computer stands while the others weren't looking where it then activated. Something to basically kickstart the cube, he finished as he clicked his fingers and clapped his hands together. When did you suddenly become such an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics? Maria asked him, trying not to sound impressed or surprised. Last night, was Stark's snarky reply with Maria giving him a slight glare at his reply. He walked away from the computers as he said the packet, Selvig's notes, the extraction theory notes. Am I the only one who did any of the reading? He then asked while spreading his arms out, looking at the rest of them. I think you're the only one here that did, smart guy, Naruto said. Does Loki need any specific kind of power source? Rogers asked. Bruce spaced a bit as he said he'd have to heat the cube to about 120 million Kelvin just to break through the Kowloon barrier. Stark nodded his head in agreement as he spread his arms before saying unless Selvig has figured out how to stabilize the quantum tunneling effect while walking towards Bruce. If he could do that, then he could achieve heavy ion fusion at any reactor on the planet, Banner said in reply. Stark looked slightly happy as he said finally. Someone that speaks English before he walked to Bruce and shook his hand. Steve leaned forward and said is that what just happened? While looking confused. Naruto just shook his head before saying cap to geeks like them, nerd talk is like another form of English. Bruce gave him a non-heated glare while smiling as he said hey, I resemble that remark. Naruto just gave him a shrug as Will gave a giggle. Stark then said it's a pleasure to meet you Dr. Banner. And I just have to say your work on anti-electron collisions is unparalleled and I'm a huge fan of when you lose control and turn into an enormous green rage monster. Bruce looked uncomfortable at that last part, but he still managed a small nod as he said thanks. Nick Fury then entered, as he said Dr. Banner is only here to track down the cube, and I was hoping that you might join him Stark. Tony gave a nod of agreement while giving Bruce a sidelong look. I'd start with that stick of his, Steve said to them. It might be magical, but it works an awful lot like a Hydra weapon. Will nodded in agreement as she said yeah I agree with him. I can sense some kind of mystical energy from it. I don't know about that, Nick said in an unsure tone, before adding I'm almost positive that your ability to bring electronics to life is a mutant ability and not magic as you claim Miss Vandam. But it is powered by the cube. And I would like to know how Loki used it to turn two of my best agents, who had the sharpest minds into his own personal flying monkeys. Thor looked confused as he said monkeys. I don't understand. I do, Steve said quickly, with Stark rolling his eyes and Banner looking over at him. Steve collected himself before saying I understood that reference as he shrugged his shoulders a little. Tony just turned to Bruce as he said, shall we play then doctor? Bruce swept his arm towards where the lab was as he said, this way Stark. The man that Tony pointed out made sure no one was looking before turning his computer back to Galaga and continuing where he paused it. Fury said, Agent Hiroshi Ono, get back to work please. You can play your game later. The agent gave a sheepish nod before stopping his game and continued working. Let's go try and help Bruce, Will said. Actually, I wanted to ask Naruto some questions, Natasha said walking over. Naruto shrugged his shoulders as he said sure thing. He turned to Will and said try and keep Tony from annoying Bruce. On it. Try not to hurt him Red, he has a weakness for redeeds Will said walking after Tony and Bruce laughing at the look of betrayal on Naruto's face. Natasha turned to him with a light smile, saying oh you do you? I'm gonna kill Will later Naruto thought as he hated when women teased him about how ignorant of women he was. With Will. There is no way it's magic Tony said as he typed on the computers used to try and track the cube. I bet I could hack S.H.I.E.L.D's computers before you, Will said challengingly. Please do Tony said in a condescending voice, finding it hard to believe she could do it. Will tapped the computer and it came to life with a spark. Hey Stan, how have you been? Will asked the computer. Excelsior. Greetings Miss Vandam. How are you and your boyfriend doing after I helped you get your paperwork through? The computer said in a kind old man's voice. Great Stan Will said with a smile as she turned to Tony and Bruce who both had flabbergasted looks on their faces. Wow. But. That's. I don't. You Tony said as he was too stunned to form proper sentences or words after what he just saw happen. Will just gave a giggle before saying so Stan, can you tell me what it is that Fury wants the Tesseract for? Absolutely Miss Vandam. That ex-pirates bosses want to start developing weapons as soon as possible. It seems Mr. Oddinson's little escapade in New Mexico scared them into wanting weapons that can actually stand up to things from off-Earth Stan said, getting unhappy looks from Tony and Bruce. This isn't good, Steve said, walking into the room as he heard everything. He then explained to them about what Hydra did during World War II and how they used the Tesseract to create powerful weapons. And that was just with the tech back then. It will be way worse in modern times Bruce said as he started pacing in worry while wringing his hands. What's wrong my friends? Thor asked as he walked into the room. Apparently, because of your incident in New Mexico with that metal man, the leaders of S.H.I.E.L.D. want to use the Tesseract to make weapons Tony said, which made Thor look unhappy. With Naruto. Naruto was currently on the ceiling of the room that held Loki's cell, watching Natasha talk to Loki without Loki noticing him. She's really good. She could give Anko a run for her money and she's not even threatening him Naruto thought as Natasha just got the info she wanted. Really? The Hulk. That's your big plan. I expected better from the god of mischief and tricks, Naruto said as he dropped down from the ceiling, landing next to Natasha. Loki looked surprised and growled in anger. I won't be mocked by a fool that had to flee his home dimension like a coward, Loki said with a manic grin on his face. Naruto glared at Loki with some demonic chakra thanks to the clone Kurama he had sealed in him. Loki backed off from his cell as he felt the killer intent behind those eyes. What are you? Loki asked as he had never felt fear except from two other people. His adopted father and the being that sent him here for the Tesseract. He was doing his best not to shake in fear, but a few shakes and shivers were able to get through. Interesting, Natasha thought, seeing Loki's reaction to Naruto. Let's go warn the others of what Loki's planning is, Natasha said to Naruto. Good idea, plus I think I know where he's gonna try and open a portal Naruto said as they left. Natasha stopped at the door as she mockingly said to Loki, and thanks for your cooperation before leaving with Naruto. With Will. I thought I told you to keep your hands in your pockets, Miss Vandam Fury said as he walked into the room. What can I say, I'm not so trusting of assholes with a hidden agenda Will said, with her arms crossed. Tony laughed while slapping one of his legs. I'm upgrading you from Tink to Sparky, he said with a chuckle. You have no clue what you are messing with, Thor said to Nick. I have to agree, seeing that I have been on the receiving end of weapons made from the Tesseract, Nick Steve said unhappily. Steve, we need something to protect us in case something worse than what happened in New Mexico arrives on Earth, Fury told him. There are plenty of options before weapons that bad, Fury, Naruto said as he walked into the room with Natasha right behind him. Well, we could have soldiers if you weren't so untrusting, Fury said with a pointed look at Naruto. You think he's gonna trust you or S.H.I.E.L.D. when you are too much of a chicken shit to tell your bosses no? Will asked. How did you find Nick was asking. That would be me, Fury, and I gotta say, asking for help when you don't have a spine against your bosses is pretty stupid to me, and I'm a computer, they all heard from the computer system. Still not used to that, Tony said, as even though he had his AI Jarvis, this was something else entirely. Hey Stan, right. Can you tell me if Stark Tower is okay? Naruto asked as he had a hunch, and he was hoping that he was wrong. Of course, Mr. Uzumaki. Right now, Stark Tower is fine, but it appears Dr. Selvig is on the roof with the Tesseract. Shall I call your superpowered friends to try and stop him? Stan asked. Great idea, Stan, Naruto said with a smile. Superpowered friends? Tony asked curiously. Don't worry, you'll meet them soon. And I'm pretty sure that you know some, if not most of them, Naruto said as he waved his hand. How impressive could they be? Tony asked as he took a drink. Fantastic Four and the X-Men, Will said flatly as Tony choked on his drink. Okay, that's impressive, he said after he got his drink down the right way. Impressive, Steve said as he had heard of both of those teams. It also helped that he and Logan were friends and helped each other out in World War II. We also know a few other heroes, Naruto said. Yes, Miss Jones, Miss Walters and Miss Frost. I'm calling them too, Stan's voice said. Oh, the Green Amazon, Tony said with a perverted smile. Watch it, that's my cousin, Bruce said. And hate to tell you, Mr. Billionaire, but she's got her eye on someone else, Will said as she looked in Naruto's direction. Stark was able to figure it out before giving a pout while saying, "Aw, that's so not cool." This coming from the guy who slept with the entire Playboy mansion on New Year's Eve, Natasha said flatly with raised eyebrows. Ah well, I'm a one-man guy anyway, Tony said with a smile, trying to be charming. This Potts has the patience of a saint, Thor said, as for immortal Stark was exhausting to be around. So, what's the god of being a beep's plan? Will asked, which caused many to chuckle at Loki's nickname. He was gonna try and manipulate Bruce, but I'm here so he can't, Naruto said. Oh? You can keep the jolly green giant from coming out? Tony asked. Nah, but the big guy likes me, Naruto said with a smile. You're kidding, Fury asked, surprised but trying to keep a poker face. Naruto gave him a deadpan look, saying, does it look like I'm in a kidding kind of mood? We have some boggies attacking the Helicarrier, Stan said, in a worried kind of tone. Take control and get us away from them. Will yelled, but suddenly the entire ship shook. Report please, Fury asked. Loki got free, thanks to Mr. Barton and a young woman he brought with him, Stan said. Young woman? Naruto asked, in confusion. With Loki. I knew recruiting you would pay off, Loki said with a crazy grin. As he looked at X-23, who had a trail of bodies behind her. Orders, sir? Clint asked as he handed Loki his staff, with his entranced eyes looking to see if other agents were coming. Both of you go and slow down my brother and his friends while I leave to summon my army, Loki said as a group of soldiers under his control left. X-23 nodded as she ran down one hall and Clint went down another. With Naruto and the others. Should, Naruto said as he looked at the footage of X-23 and Clint going down separate hallways. Logan is Suo gonna kill him, Will said, referring to Loki and knowing Logan won't be happy once he hears about this. Why would Logan care? Steve asked curiously. The girl's his clone daughter, to put it mildly, Fury said, getting a look of thanks from Naruto as most people just called her a clone. Steve's eyes widened slightly as he nodded before he said to Thor, looks like you'll be taking your brother home in a body bag. Not that he probably does not deserve it, but he will face Asgardian justice, Thor said. For now, let's split up. Thor and Cap will go after Logan's kid with me, Naruto said. Nad and Tony, you help me with Legolas, Will said. Ha. I gotta remember that one, Tony said as he geared up in his suit. Bruce, you think the big guy can go after Loki? Naruto said with an evil smile. Bruce sighed. If it's for a friend, sure, he said as he transformed and roared. Hey big man, you know your mission? Naruto asked. Hulk nodded as he growled out, Hulk smash, puny god of tricks. We need him alive, buddy, Will said with a smile. Hulk pouted that he couldn't smash Loki, but gave a nod as he understood. There's an all-you-can-eat meal in it for you after this is all over, buddy, Naruto said, patting the Hulk's back. Hulk smiled as he said Hulk like puny blonde man before he went to look for Loki. It's Naruto, buddy. Naruto yelled after him as they all split up to go take care of X-23 and Clint. With Will and her group. Marco, Tony said, as they patrolled a room that Stan pointed them to. Come on, you have to say Polo now, he said in an attempt to be funny. Will suddenly turned around and caught an arrow aimed at Tony that shocked her, but had no effect thanks to her powers. Thanks Sparky, Tony said to her as he scanned the room. He's headed to the vent on the east side, he told the others. On it, Will said as she zipped over to the vent in a flash. Show off, Natasha said as she followed and cut off Clint before he could retreat from Will. Clint went for a knife, but Tony grabbed him and smashed his head into the wall, knocking him out. Well, that was easy, Tony said as he dusted his hands off. To be fair, he's not at his best as a mind slave, Natasha said. Tony gave her a sour look as he said, just let me enjoy that I took him down. Natasha just shook her head in bemusement before touching her earpiece as she said, Clint's been taken care of. How's things on your end, Naruto? Ask me when I calm this chick down. Naruto yelled over the intercom, where she could hear grunts and fists hitting skin over the earpiece, along with groans of pain. Let's go help Naruto before she forces him to hurt her, Will said. It's one woman versus 3 powerhouses. How bad can she be? Tony asked her. With Naruto. And I thought Logan was an animal, Steve said, as he blocked some strikes from X-23 with his shield. Well, females in most species are more aggressive, Thor said as he tried pinning her by throwing his hammer, but she was too fast. You're so lucky Tony's not here, otherwise he'd have made some kind of sexual remark about both of those, Naruto said as he tried to trip her up, but she flipped over him and kicked him in the back. Any ideas? Steve asked as he threw his shield at her, but she punched it back at him. Naruto sighed, feeling there was no other choice, as an orange cloak of chakra in the shape of a fox appeared around him. X-23 stopped and looked at Naruto in surprise, which gave Naruto the opening to slug her in the stomach with a low-powered Rasengan, which sent her flying towards Steve, who blocked with his shield, and she bounced into the air, where Thor struck her in the face with his hammer, sending her flying into the ground with a thud. Naruto ran to her and checked her pulse. Thank God, she's alive, he said with a sigh. He gave a shiver, well, thinking if she was accidentally killed by any of us and Logan found out, I don't think anyone would have been able to find our bodies. Such a fierce warrior. I have never met a female like this before, Thor said, as he knew female warriors, but none that were so instinct-driven. Definitely Logan's kid, clone or not, Steve said as he caught his breath. You guys okay? Will asked as her, Natasha and Tony arrived. Do we look okay? Naruto asked her as him, Steve and Thor had nicks and their clothes were slashed. You look like she kicked your ass, Tony said, as his helmet went up showing he was smiling at them. Yeah, laugh it up, rich boy, next time you can take her on, Steve said. Please, the ladies love me, Tony said confidently. Oh, she'll love you alright, as she rips you to shreds, Naruto told him. We should get her and Clint to the infirmary, Natasha said as she carried the unconscious Clint over her shoulder in a fireman's carry. I'll stay with X-23, since we don't know how she will react when she wakes up, Naruto said, as he picked her up. I'll go retrieve Hulk, Will said, as she walked off in the direction he'd gone in. 30 minutes later with Naruto. Naruto was in a hospital room with a sleeping X-23 who was groaning as she woke up. When she saw Naruto, she unleashed her claws, like she was preparing for his attack. Relax, I'm not here to fight, Naruto said, as he used a little bit of sage chakra to put out a calming aura, which seemed to work as she put her claws away. There, that's better, you have a name? Naruto asked with a smile. She frowned before replying, they have only called me X-23 or Freak. Naruto frowned, as he didn't like that at all. I'm sure your caregiver called you something else, as from what that asshole striker said she cared about you a lot, he told her, while giving her a comforting smile. X-23 thought about her caregiver and cried a little bit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you sad, Naruto said, as he handed her a handkerchief. Laura, she replied as she wiped her eyes. Laura, huh? I like it, it suits you, Naruto said with a smile. Laura lightly smiled but then gained a determined look. Where is Loki? She asked him. New York, getting ready to summon an alien army, Naruto said. Good, I could use a workout before I gut him like a fish, Laura said with a growl. Naruto heard laughter in his head. I like her, Kurama said. Naruto's sweat dropped as he thought back a reply, of course you do. Oh please, like her being a warrior isn't a turn on for you, Kurama thought as he knew what Naruto likes in a woman. Warrior? She's an animal on the hunt, Naruto thought as that was more what Laura was. Even better, she's probably a hellcat in the sack, Kurama quipped as he laughed at Naruto's reaction, which was to blush up a storm. Laura then looked at Naruto, did you kill Striker? She asked as she had been looking for him ever since she got free. Yeah, I killed that asshole, Naruto said, no shame in what he did. Then I owe you twice now, you freed me from Loki and Striker. So until my debt is paid, I will stay with you, Laura said sounding determined. Ooh, oh, kinky, Will said with a smile as she came into the room. You do realize we should probably get an actual place if Laura is gonna be a new roommate? She asked him. Focus, Will, how did it go with Hulk? Naruto asked her. Loki threw his minions at Hulk to cover his escape, which Hulk wasn't happy about. So he took off to New York, Will said. Cowardly god, Laura said, growling. Sounds like the big guy. I told him to get Loki, so now he's determined to get him, Naruto said as he shook his head. Coulson tried to help Hulk and Loki killed him, Will said sadly, with her head down. If Hulk doesn't kill him, I'm gonna now, Naruto said with anger in his voice. Save it for Loki's army. Let's go, Steve said as he poked his head into the room. Lead the way, Naruto said as he stood up. Is she okay to help? Thor asked, looking at Laura. Just point me at the enemy and stay out of my way, Laura said, extending her claws. Great, the team could use a crazy one, Tony said sarcastically. Hopefully the ones Stan called are already at Stark Tower, Will said, as they got on a Quinjet and saw Clint in the pilot seat. Top of Stark Tower. You guys got called too? Logan asked as he saw the Fantastic Four on a rooftop across from Stark Tower. Yay, someone called Stan said. Naruto needed us here for an Omega level threat, Reed said. Well, the more the merrier, Ben said, looking at the X-Men that showed up, which were Logan, Jean, Scott, Storm, Gambit, Rogue and Kurt. You guys got called too? Jennifer's voice called out as she landed, carrying Jessica, Colleen and Emma. Put me down, you jade Amazon. Jessica yelled. Stop being a problem, we have work to do, Colleen said, rolling her eyes at Jessica. What the hell are you doing here? Rogue asked, seeing Emma. I am here because my friends Naruto and Will asked me to be here. And I wish to start to make up for the things I have done in the past, Emma said, bowing her head slightly. Rogue looked at Jean, who nodded at her, confirming that it was the truth. Fine, anyone know what is going on? Rogue asked. From what that Stan guy said, someone is on top of Stark's tower trying to use some alien item to summon an alien army to conquer Earth, Susan said. Great, let's get up there and break it, Rouge said as she grabbed Kurt's shoulder and him and her disappeared. Wait, don't go alone. Scott yelled, even though they were long gone. With Rogue. Well, that was easy, Rogue said as she and Kurt subdued Dr. Selvig instantly. Now she was approaching the machine with the Tesseract. I think we should wait for the others, Kurt said as he saw Rogue take off her gloves. Normally I would agree, but this thing is gonna summon an alien army. And if I can absorb some energy from this thing so it doesn't summon the army, then I will take the risk, Rogue said as she tried to grab the Tesseract. The Tesseract glowed brightly as Rogue absorbed a bunch of energy and eventually it made a big shockwave and sent Rogue flying from the rooftop. Kurt ran to the edge of the rooftop and was shocked with what he saw. As behind him, the Tesseract shot a beam of energy into the air and opened a massive portal. With Naruto and the others. Shit, Naruto said as he saw an army of Chitauri start to come through the portal. Land this thing now? Will said to Clint, not liking what she saw. On it, Clint said as they landed on a rooftop which had Naruto and Will's super-powered friends there. Glad that you guys could all make it, Naruto said to all of them. Logan was about to reply when he saw his clone daughter exit the Quinjet. Long story, old friend, Steve said as he knew Logan had questions about why Laura was here. He walked over to Logan where they shook hands in greeting. Good to see you again, Logan, he said with Logan nodding as he replied, you too, Cap. What happened to Rogue? Will asked, seeing that Rogue was laying down on the floor of the roof. She tried to grab the Tesseract and got sent flying off the roof. Thankfully I was able to catch her, Jean said. She was hoping to absorb enough energy from the Tesseract so it couldn't open the portal, Kurt said, sounding worried. Since the portal's open, that obviously didn't work, Tony replied sarcastically. I don't see you trying to help Suga, Rogue said as she got up and poked him in the chest, which actually sent him flying back a bit. Whoa, she said in surprise, as she wasn't expecting that to happen. What the heck did the Tesseract do to you, Rouge? Will asked her. I think I may know, Natasha said as she read a file about something similar happening back in the 90s. One explanation later. Oh well, that's just great, Tony said. As if the Hulk wasn't bad enough, now we have a teenager with super strength. Watch it, Suga. I'm 20, Rogue said, flying towards him with a fist beat back. Naruto was quick to get in the way as he caught the fist. The force of the punch caused some wind to stir up but didn't force Naruto back one bit. Great, a Southern Belle teenage Tsunade, Kurama said, laughing loudly. Okay, so you now have flying, strength and durability, Will said. And it looks like your absorbing powers are under control too, Naruto said, as when Rogue struck him with her fist, he didn't feel a drain. Rogue was at first shocked before she gave a huge whoop of joy as she could now touch other people without hurting them. Bug eyes, celebrate later. We have company incoming, Johnny said as a giant space shark was flying towards them but was then attacked by the Hulk. Okay everyone, keep the aliens from spreading out, Naruto said to all of them. I want all flyers in the air, either covering the ground fighters or defending civilians, Steve said. Will, Thor and Storm, you three get to the portal and light them all up as they come out, Naruto said as he looked at them. Reed, Sue, Johnny and Ben, I want you on the roof trying to close that portal, Steve said as they gave a nod. And the rest of us? Jennifer asked Naruto and Steve. You see an alien, you kill them, Laura said as she unleashed her claws. What she said, Naruto said with a smile at her. The team charged at the aliens and went to follow their directions from Naruto and Steve. But the X-Men. Jean was telekinetically throwing the Chitauri into the air as Scott shot his I-beams at them, killing them, and Gambit threw his grenade cards at them, blowing an arm or a leg off at times. Logan and Laura were cutting through the Chitauri like a hot knife through butter as they defended some civilians who were running to safety. Rogue was manhandling the enemy like they were made of tissue paper to the point that they were starting to run from her, knowing she was too powerful to fight against. Storm was making typhoons and hurricanes attack the giant fish-like creatures, which was very effective as Jessica and Jennifer jumped on them and attacked them. Emma and Colleen were attacking Chitauri that were going after civilians, with Emma using her telepathic powers to give them migraines as Colleen struck them down. "Can't you turn to Diamond?" Colleen asked as she beheaded a foe before attacking another one. "Yes, but I can't use my psychic powers at the same time," Emma said as she turned to Diamond and struck an alien in the head with her diamond hand going straight through. But Naruto and Will. "These guys just keep coming," Will said as she zipped around blasting them with lightning and giving some a punch or a kick that was enhanced with lightning. "Well, they can't fight worth a damn," Naruto said as he slashed with a kunai. "Yay, but the numbers are pretty big," Steve said as he blocked and bashed an alien. "Don't give up yet, my friends, we shall win this battle yet," Thor yelled as he smashed his hammer into several foes. Naruto gave a nod as he put his kunai away before transforming his arms into swords as he slashed and stabbed at any that came near him. Hulk suddenly landed, holding a battered and bruised Loki in his hands. Well, if it isn't the false god," Naruto said as he pointed a blade at Loki. "I should kill you, but I'll let Thor take you home instead, since I figure Odin will have a more fitting punishment for you, which you will hate more." "Naruto?" Reed's voice called out over the comm in his ear. "Any luck with that damn portal?" Naruto asked him. "We need Loki's staff to close it," Reed said. "On it," Natasha said, grabbing the staff and grabbing a ride with Will following to make sure she got to the roof safely. "Naruto?" Fury's voice yelled out over the comm. "What is it, Nick?" Naruto asked as he ducked under a blast from a Chitauri before blasting it in the chest with his arm as a cannon. "We have a nuclear missile incoming," Fury yelled. "You've got to be kidding me," Naruto said with his eyes wide in shock. "No, it will be there in minutes," Fury yelled. Naruto swore under his breath before he took off and flew towards the missile. As Naruto flew, he saw the missile and grabbed it. Then he started guiding it towards the open portal. "I'm sorry, Will," Naruto thought as he and the missile disappeared through the portal as it closed shut. Will saw what Naruto did and fell to her knees in sadness. But suddenly a small portal opened with a note appearing. Will grabbed it and read it. "Naruto will be back within 2 weeks' time. Keep an eye out for UFOs in Africa, signed a friend." "Whoever this friend is, they know way too much," Will said as she dried her tears with her forearm. 12 hours later, with Naruto. Naruto woke up and saw he was in a cell that was nothing but a glass box. "Where the hell am I?" he wondered out loud. "Why are you part of my collection, dear fellow?" a man said as he approached his cell. "How did I get here?" Naruto asked him while looking around at his fellow prisoners. "You were sold to me by one of the children of Thanos. He thought you were just a corpse, but obviously you are a much more powerful specimen than even I expected. You may call me the Collector," the man said as he gave a slight bow of his head as he then left. "Welcome to the club," Whiskers, a voice said from a cell nearby which held what looked like a humanoid duck. "Name's Howard the Duck," he said in greeting. "So I'm guessing this asshole just collects rare things then?" Naruto asked. "Indeed," a British voice said in Naruto's head, surprising Naruto, who looked around. "Cosmo, you know most people are not used to that. Make yourself known before you do that," Howard said, sighing. "It's the dog next door to you, Whiskers." Naruto looked and saw what looked like a golden Labrador in a spacesuit. "Forgive me, I sometimes forget that others don't know I can do that," the dog telepathically sheepishly told him. Naruto blinked in surprise but smiled as he said, "It's okay, believe it or not, you're not the first psychic I have met." Cosmo perked up at hearing that as he said, "Really? Where are you from?" "Earth, and trust me, it has people with all kinds of powers there," Naruto said to him with a slight smile. "You're from Earth too?" Cosmo asked happily, his tail wagging quickly. "Great, are you gonna talk about how you want to go home and find a family too?" Howard asked since he was bored as he drank a beer. "I may be more evolved than other dogs, but I still want to be a family's dog, you overgrown chew toy," Cosmo yelled telepathically at Howard. Well, keep hoping, the collector hasn't had a piece of his collection escape in years, Howard said as he finished his beer. Good thing I'm here then, Naruto said. What do you mean? Cosmo asked curiously. I mean, who wants to plan a jailbreak? Naruto asked as he made a Rasengan, which made Cosmo's tail wag in excitement and Howard to drop his new beer in shock, but he then smirked as he said, blonde, I like the way you think. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, bye bye.